In the quiet neighborhoods of Wichita, Kansas, a dark cloud descended upon the unsuspecting residents. They were about to face a menace that lurked in the shadows, a predator known as the BTK Killer. For years, Wichita was plagued by a series of chilling disappearances. One by one, young women vanished, leaving behind a trail of fear and unanswered questions. The police tirelessly pursued the twisted mind behind these heinous acts. But the BTK Killer was cunning, leaving behind minimal clues, taunting both the authorities and the frightened community. Unbeknownst to them, the BTK Killer was meticulously selecting his victims, stalking them like a hunter on the prowl. He would study their routines, their habits, their vulnerabilities, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The BTK Killer would bind his victims, rendering them helpless to his sadistic desires. He reveled in the power he had over them, savoring their fear and helplessness. Torture became his twisted pleasure, as he taunted his captives with the knowledge that their lives hung by a thread. Their screams echoed in the darkness, unheard by the outside world. Kill, his final act of ultimate control. The BTK Killer extinguished the lives of his victims, leaving behind a wake of grief and devastation. As the body count grew, the city's grip on sanity weakened. Families locked their doors, peering out windows, haunted by the unknown darkness that prowled their streets. Bind, torture, kill, those three words echoed through Wichita, a chilling reminder of the monster lurking within their midst. But who was the BTK Killer? And how could they be stopped? Months turned into years, and Wichita remained in the grip of terror. The police pursued every lead, each piece of evidence meticulously analyzed. But the killer remained elusive, blending seamlessly into the fabric of the community. It was a race against time. But then, a glimmer of hope emerged from the darkness, a small mistake made by the BTK Killer himself, a clue that would lead the authorities down a treacherous path. Advancements in forensic technology allowed investigators to extract a DNA sample from a crime scene, connecting it to someone unexpected, the daughter of the BTK Killer. On a fateful day, the walls began to close in on the BTK Killer. Dennis Rader, the seemingly ordinary family man, was apprehended at his home, ending decades of terror.
Mr. Rader, I need to find out more information. On that particular day, the 15th day of January, 1974, can you tell me where you went to kill Mr. Joseph Otero?
I think it's 1834, Edgemore.
All right. Can you tell me approximately what time of day you went there?
Somewhere between 7 and 7:30.
This particular location, did you know these people?
No, that's no, that was part of my, I guess my what you call fantasy. These people were selected.
All right, so you
Oh.
you were engaged in some kind of fantasy during this period of time?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, when you use the term fantasy, is this something you were doing for your personal pleasure?
Sexual fantasy, sir.
I see. So you went to this residence, and what occurred then?
Well, I had did some thinking on what I was going to do to either Mrs. Otero or Josephine, and basically broke into the house, or didn't break into the house, but when they came out of the house, I came in and confronted the family, and then we went from there.
All right. Had you planned this beforehand?
To some degree, yes. After I got in the house, I lost control of it, but it was, you know, in the back of my mind, I had some ideas what I was going to do, but I basically panicked that first day. So
Beforehand, did you know who was there in the house?
I thought Mrs. Otero and the two kids, the two younger kids were in the house. I didn't realize Mr. Otero was going to be there.
All right. how did you get into the house?
I came to the back door, cut the phone lines, waited at the back door, had reservations about even going or just walking away, but pretty soon the door opened and I was in.
All right, so the door opened, was it open for you, or did someone?
I think one of the kids, I think the junior, or not junior, yes, the younger, Joseph opened the door. He probably let the dog out because the dog was in the house at that time.
All right, when you went into the house, what happened then?
Well, I confronted the family, pulled a pistol, confronted Mr. Otero, and asked him to, that I was there to, basically, I was wanted to get the car. I was hungry, food, I was wanted, and asked him to lie down in the living room. And at that time, I realized that wouldn't be a really good idea, so I finally, the dog was a real problem, so I asked Mr. Otero if he could get the dog out, so he had one of the kids put it out. And I took him back to the bedroom.
You took who back to the bedroom?
The family, the bedroom, the 4 members.
All right, what happened then?
At that time, I tied him up.
While still holding him at gunpoint?
Well, in between tying and yes. Yeah.
All right, after you tied them up, what occurred?
Well, they started complaining about being tied up, and I re-loosened the bonds a couple of times. Tried to make Mr. Otero as comfortable as I could. Apparently had a cracked rib from a car accident, so I had him put a pillow down for his head. Had he put I think he's Parker or a coat underneath him. They talked to me about giving the car and whatever money. I guess they didn't have very much money, and there I realized that I didn't have a mask on or anything. They already could ID me, and made a decision to go ahead and put him down, I guess, or strangle him.
All right, what did you do to Joseph Otero Sr.?
Joseph Otero?
Yeah,
Okay.
Joseph Otero Sr., Mr. Otero, the father.
I put a plastic bag over his head and then some cords and then tightened it.
This was in the bedroom.
Yes, sir.
Did he, in fact, suffocate and die as a result of this?
Not right away. No, sir, he didn't.
What happened?
Well, after that, I did Mrs. Otero. I had never strangled anyone before, so I really didn't know how much pressure you had to put on a person or how long it would take. But
Was she also tied up there in the
yes,
bedroom?
yeah, both their hands and their feet were tied up. She was on the bed.
Where were the children?
Josephine was on the bed and Junior was on the floor this time.
So we're talking, first of all, about Joseph Otero. So you had put the bag over his head and tied it.
Mm-hmm.
And he did not die right away. Can you tell me what happened in regards to Joseph?
He moved over real quick like, and I think tore a hole in the bag, and I could tell that he was having some problems there. But at that time, the whole family just went panicked on me, so I worked pretty quick. I got
What
Mrs.
did you worked pretty quick.
Well,
What
I mean,
did you do?
I strangled Mrs. Otero, and she went out, or passed out. I thought she was dead. She passed out. Then I strangled Josephine. She passed out, or I thought she was dead. And then I went over and put a bag on Junior's head, and then if I remember right, Mrs. Otero came back. She came back and.
Sir, let me ask you about Joseph Otero Sr. You
Senior.
indicated he had torn a hole in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do with him then?
I put another bag over it, or either that or I recollect, I think I put either a cloth or a T-shirt or something over his head, and then another bag, and then tighten it down.
Did he subsequently die?
Well, yes. I didn't just stay there and watch him. Then I was moving around the room. But
All right, so you indicated you strangled Mrs. Otero after you had done this. Is that correct?
now I went back and strangled her again, that finally killed her at that time.
So this is in regards to count 2. first of all put the bag over Joseph Otero's head, and he tore a hole in the bag. Then you went ahead. Did you strangle Mrs. Otero then,
Okay.
or did you go
First
back?
of all, Mr. Otero was strangled, or a bag put over his head and strangled. Then I thought he was going down, and I went over and strangled Mrs. Otero. I thought she was down. Then I strangled Josephine. Thought she was down, and then I went over to Junior and put the bag on his head. After that, Mrs. Otero woke back up, and she was pretty upset and what's going on. So I came back, and at that point in time, strangled her for the death strangle at that time.
With your hands or what?
No, with a cord, with a rope. And then I think at that point in time, I redid Mr. Otero, put the bag over his head, went over and then took Junior. Before that, she asked me to save her son. So I actually had taken the bag off, and then I was really upset at that point in time. So basically, when Mr. Otero was down, Mrs. Otero was down, I went ahead and took Junior. I put another bag over his head and took him to the other bedroom at that time.
What did you do then?
Put a bag over his head. I put a cloth over his head, a T-shirt, and a bag so he couldn't tear a hole in it. And he subsequently died from that. And then when I went back, Josephine had woke back up.
What did you do then?
And I took her to the basement and eventually hung her.